Hi everybody, it is the 16th of February 2022 and DayZ update 1.16 dropped yesterday for console, PlayStation, Xbox and PC. I'm a little bit behind the times with this one, but I wanted to get the kind of modder friendly videos out last night about how to know if you've updated to 1.16, how to add more Bizons and alarm clocks, and my normal 1.16 boosted loot XMLs. But let's go through the blog post from Adam and we'll go through the patch notes as well to see if there's any other interesting stuff that maybe we haven't covered before. Greetings survivors, 2022 may have only just begun, but the first update of the year, 1.16, has already been released on all platforms. We dedicated the end of last year and the beginning of this one to a clean sweep type of update, which is to say that we went through our backlog and fixed everything we could within a given time frame. This approach also gave us the opportunity to plan out the content for future updates. If you're interested in learning more about our plans for this year, make sure to check out our DayZ in 22 article for all the details, and I've done a video about that a few videos back. Basically, we're going to get, I think, 4 or 5 updates this year. A lot of it's going to be concentrating on adding like civilian weapons and fixing the vehicles, that sort of stuff. So cool stuff. Update 1.16 contains a variety of fixes and adjustments which are aimed at certain balancing and gameplay issues. There are far too many to list them all, so here are some of our favourites. Health damage from starvation was not applied when one kept drinking water, so you're going to have to eat food as well now. Characters were occasionally punching sideways during melee combat as well as stepping forward, even though there were obstacles in front of them. It was possible to destroy base building walls on fences or watchtowers just by shooting frames from outside. Tolerance for the placing of base building structures, kits and tents was increased, which should allow for much easier placing of these objects on uneven terrain. So that's a great news for vanilla building, especially on console. Bear traps can break the legs of the infected. Firearms with internal magazines now have a randomised quantity of bullets. Now I'm going to have a look at that, actually, my XMLs, because that might mean that we can spawn in things like SKSs full of bullets and shotguns with bullets in them already. Well, shotgun shells. Server-side gameplay settings were expanded by adding the ability to switch off the 2D map layout. And what they're talking about here is, I think, it's the tourist map. So instead of having the 2D bit over it, will just be a photo. And the advantage of that is it should render much, much faster. Because at the moment, when you get the tourist map out on console, it takes forever to render and move it around. So that's going to be a good thing. You'll also now be able to find additional parameters to control the length of the unconscious state to tailor the experience according to playstyles. So, it's basically, if you get shot, how long do you stay unconscious for? Speaking of servers, we have also increased the limits of script classed indexing, which were causing issues when combining a larger amount of mods together. Modders and server owners will appreciate the extensions within the Firearms API, which now allows the spawning of magazines and bullets directly into newly created empty firearms. This was only possible before through the central economy. Good, great. That's kind of beyond the sort of thing that we do. We don't get involved in that sort of thing with console yet. And it wouldn't truly be an update without us introducing a bit of new content. That's why we're happy to introduce the Bizon, an iconic AK-based .380 submachine gun with an extra large magazine. It's the one that looks like it's got a grenade launcher on. We're also introducing the alarm clock, which allows you to see the time in-game and offers you the ability to set an alarm for a certain time in order to scare your enemies or lure the infected. Yeah, it's funny, the alarm clock. Everybody's kind of thinking, what can you combine it with to turn it into like a time-based bomb or something? But so far, it just appears to be what it is. An alarm clock that gives you the server time. If you'd like to see a full list of fixes and tweaks, head on over to the official forums, which we'll do in a sec. We're already hard at work on the next game update, but we hope you'll have fun with this one for now. On behalf of the DayZ team, Adam. Fantastic. Great. So let's go and have a look at the console patch notes. Here we go. So added the Bizon SMG, the 64 round Bizon magazine, be the Bizon stock as well, the alarm clock, the yellow motorbike helmet variant, new VSync option in the settings for PlayStation to remove screen tearing caused by higher frame rates. Fair enough. I've always found that DayZ runs better on Xbox than PlayStation. Don't know why that is. So we won't really bother with the fix stuff. But what we'll do... In fact, no. Actually, there's stuff in there that might be useful. Player sees heavy attack animation as light attack animation. Combine option between gas stove and gas cannons was not functioning properly. C-130 plane had misplaced textures. Disinfected item status was missing. Item UI elements were not displaying the name of the item when aiming at it. Players sometimes step forward during melee combat. Fireplaces wouldn't properly disappear if the last attachment removed. It was possible to detach the tripod from the fireplace while a pot was attached. Place UI element would show up falsely when pointing at an indoor fireplace with selected consumables. Dead chicken couldn't be buried after being picked up and dropped. Fire mode of the revolver was changing while shooting. Shock was not decreasing when swimming backwards with broken legs. Moving with broken legs while crouched could deal unsteady amounts of shock. Infected players would not show the plus symbol in the inventory. Infected all players would not show the plus symbol in the inventory view when they only had items as attachments. Dug-up items were levitating above the ground. Client error when attaching and detaching items from a tripwire trap. In specific cases, the tripwire trap did not display its attachment slot. Smoke from a ruined car engine was only displayed for the driver. Attacking with animal carcasses could trigger blood particles and knife slashing sounds. The inventory of the Cycle 120 vehicle was accessible through its engine rather than the trunk. The player could be desynced if their legs were broken during an action. The player could be desynced if the legs were broken while swapping items. Locked indoor stoves could not be opened by force. Interrupting two-handed animation by dropping the tool could freeze the character. Infected were able to climb fences with barbed wire on top. The UI of a deployed landmine could be seen when holding another landmine in hands. Shooting while on back after kicking would play the kick animation after each shot. Hitting the back of players' heads would hit the brain instead of the head. Ooh. Sounds of disease symptoms of another player were played from the wrong position. Fix several inconsistencies when it comes to bullet penetration of objects. The combination lock would play a sound while in hands without being actively used. The light source of the head torch was in the wrong position. Fixed an exploit for extended melee hit distance. The frame of the glass stove was slightly clipping with the frying pan. Slightly improved twisted wrists when holding certain items. Several headgear items were clipping with the female survivor head introduced in 1.1.5. Fixed the typographic errors in the 1P and 51 scope. Infected had bad collisions while crawling. It was possible to hit players inside a vehicle with melee from the opposite side. Wolves could injure players inside vehicles. So that's been fixed. Yeah, so now when you're in a vehicle, pretty sure wolves and bears don't hurt you. Which means vehicles are very, very powerful when it comes to bear hunting. It was possible to survive without food at all, only by drinking. Some localized settings weren't fully displayed. It was possible to place landmines under train tracks. Names of vehicle parts were not shown on ruined cars. It was possible to destroy the fence frame before the actual wall. Adjusted certain structures to prevent exploits. Fixed the badly reflecting window at the yellow brick military building. Some items could not be picked up at the Northwest Airfield construction site. It was possible to bury corpses inside buildings. I love some of these glitches. Field of view setting changes were not saved upon reconnect. Respawn points for server switching hopping were not functioning as intended. Sounds of files were persisting even after the body despawned. Oh, sound of flies, sorry. Adjusted misleading description of coding tablets. Now here we go, changed. Increase the threshold for terrain clipping, allowing easier placement of base building objects. So you can put things like walls and watchtowers down easier. It is no longer possible to bury ruined items. Consuming charcoal has no effect when another charcoal is so they mean charcoal tablets is already in the player's body. Increased energy and water given by mushrooms, now similar to fruits. That's good, so you'll be able to survive better in the forest. Some jackets can now be torn into rags similar to their plants counterpart. Remove the action to take the fireplace from the barrel, so you can't turn a fire barrel back into a normal barrel. Crafting an item using the metal wire will produce an item with the same health as the metal wire used. First aid kits and teddy bears can now be repaired with sewing kits. Protector cases and ammo boxes can now be repaired with epoxy putty. The gas stove now emits light when active. The pickaxe can now be utilised to bury things and bodies. Oh, that's important. So yeah, because it used to just be the spade, didn't it, or the shovel? And then I think they added the hoe you could do it with. So that makes sense. Duct tape can now be utilised to craft a splint. Hide the UI element showing parts of the car while sitting inside. Slightly reduced penetration of 5.56. Reduced the range of thermometer results. Rotated the electrical repair kit in the inventory. Reduced inventory side of the pumpkin and pumpkin slices. Bear traps won't kill infected but break their legs. That makes sense. Damaging a tent now also damages items stored inside, adjusted damage zone selection of vehicles, bloody hands no longer make the character sick while drinking from containers. That's a good, sensible, logical one. Red and orange armbands were looking too similar in certain lighting. Tweak the mid appearance of tracer bullets. Renamed the folding buttstocks to lightweight. Okay. So that, I tell you what, that might be interesting for some modded files actually. Server added use 3D map parameter to the gameplay settings to disable the 2D map overlay of the tourist map. So yeah, so that will make the tourist map render better. Added shock refill speed conscious parameter, added shock refill speed unconscious parameter, added allow refill speed modifier, added quantum. So they're to do with PvP, you know, when you get shot, how long do you stay unconscious. Added quant min and quant max parameters can now be used to randomize quantity in internal magazines firearms, which importantly for modders means you can now spawn in SKSs and shotguns with full mags, with full bullets inside them. So that's pretty cool, that. Because the problem used to be you would spawn in shotguns at the coast and people would have to find shells, but now you can spawn a shotgun in, say the Pumpy, that will have, what, 6 bullets inside it, 6 shells. Fix leaving some entries empty in CFG effect area.json would result in default particles rather than no particles. So there's some known issues, so that looks pretty cool. So let's have a quick look at the PC ones. So everything will be the same, but it's really the server stuff, this modding bit. Let's have a look. Oh, so yeah, it's probably not worth going through that. Yeah. Anyway, there we go. So DayZ update 1.16. Very exciting. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to this year. And if you've got any questions or comments, put them down below. Thank you very much.